Hello, I'm Jerry Artho, and these are international podcasts and online publications to help you spend your time wisely and your energy positively. Now, this is all based on history and current events on the economics of them and mentors who have enlightened and corrected me. So before I get snuffed out and take my continuous education and personal experiences to the grave, this is what I've learned. Now this will be chapter 1 of Artho Economics. It's the international foundation of Artho Economics. And basically, you can forget the noise, disregard hidden agendas, don't even bother listening to yet another politician's dog and pony show. You're either cash flowing or you're not. If you're not running the numbers, somebody will run them against you. And it all comes down to cash flow as far as governing, well, your personal cash flow also, and government. Now, Artho Economics is based on 6 basic principles, and you can click on these on chapter 1, and the 7th one will be announced later. The first one is positive cash flow opportunities for everyone to work towards. And in other words, in history and current events, you've always had people who won the war, and then the first thing they wanted to do was say, well, we want to discriminate against these people or those people, even though they're talented, and they have things to contribute to the nation's economy. But when you start discriminating against anybody, now you're putting part of your economy idle, and you can't compete with your international trading partners. And as long as you're doing this for sustainable long-term investments, it's a win-win. Versus the negative cash flow by corruption and discrimination against others. Now, these usually wind up in unsustainable short-term ill-gotten gains. And sooner or later, the truth comes out, and it just never seems to work in the long run. But we keep repeating these same mistakes over and over again. The third one is to subsidize to encourage infrastructure and education as a hand up. The infrastructure always encourages your economies to trade, whether it's interstate commerce or exportation, building harbors or rail systems or highways. It's always a good idea because these infrastructures and education pays for generations to come. Versus taxing and fining to discourage corruption and handouts. And in other words, if you want to discourage something in your economy, it's easier to tax it than it is to fine it. But when it basically comes down to, you have to fine it to discourage corruption, and of course the usual handouts of unsustainable, ill-gotten gains to the economic traders. Now the next one is peacetime accountability of corruption, like-kind retribution as payment in kind. History shows us that time and time again, when the war is over, then you have peacetime accountability for the people that keep repeating history and they keep making the same mistakes. Versus wars in humanity inflicted by politicians prior negative cash flows. They keep repeating history. You keep backing yourself in the same corner. And it doesn't have to be this way. There's an old ancient saying, an evil man will burn his nation to the ground to rule over the ashes. As history and current events prove this time and time again, they really have no empathy for the tax-paying commoners or anybody it's the usual good versus evil, and the usual yin versus the yang. It's just as ancient as it can be, still alive and going on today. However, this is a great time to be alive. Mankind's technology and our future is bright if we choose wisely to separate the usual facts from fiction, because it's just been that way since time began. Everybody's trying to get something for nothing instead of us all working together for a common cause. And when we all work together for a common cause, this increases mankind's economic prosperity, increases global trading, and maintains world peace. In other words, when you don't keep your economy going and rule within the means of your nation, then all of a sudden now you print paper, fiat money, and sooner or later that will come to head also. So you have to run the numbers and keep the self-discipline of maintaining what you've got and go from there. Now there's an old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the absolute power that takes over a nation, sooner or later, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these four little words have been proven over and over again, because absolute powerful usually put in their pathetic liars, and they become economic traitors, or a dictator's puppet courts of economic treason, which of course is going to collapse any nation's economy and create global trading imbalances, and then comes the usual saber rattling to justify invading your neighbor nations to rape, murder, and plunder even more stolen, unsustainable, ill-gotten gains from the wars. And as history and current events prove time and time again, this will temporarily prop up a dictator's usual collapsed economy and will finance the dictator's usual wars of inhumanities. Then again, these unsustainable, ill-gotten gains always come to an end, and in the meantime, women and children starve to death. You have the usual human sacrificing of people fighting and killing each other. And the fact of the matter is, the absolute powerful and these dictators won't run the numbers, and they've probably never cash flowed anything in their life in the first place. And there is an old saying, liars never figure, and figures never lie.